What's up, Sixers fans? This is Sixers Talk, presented to you by Wilmington University. I'm Ben Barry. I'm here with my boy, Kevin Rice, the Kevin Rice. How you doing today, my man?
Good, Ben. How have you been?
Been good. Survived the Christmas disaster that I was just telling you about before we recorded. Got a little sinus infection, and there's a little one with an ear infection. But you know what? Could be worse, man. It could be worse.
Yeah, glad you're not. Glad you're not. We all know. Glad you're not infected with that. But yeah.
Yeah. You know, it could be worse. And some things that are worse right now is that game last night by the Sixers. You know, I hate to start off as Mr. Negative, as some people view me as, but did you see any bright spots in last night's game?
Not many, no. It was a back-to-back road game, so without Joel. So there's, I guess, lenience I'll give them, but Ben did not really take charge. Tobias, I guess, was kind of a silver lining of he didn't dribble much. He caught it and shot it when he got it. That's good. It didn't always go in, but that's fine moving forward. That's all we needed him to do. But overall, it was a disaster of a game. Not the end of the world long term, but it was almost unbearable last night, losing to a Cavs team who they should have beat handily with or without Joel.
Yeah, they should have beat that Cavs team. I feel like without Joel and without Ben. It was the turnovers. I believe it was 22 overall. Mm-hmm. The effort wasn't there on defense. Ben Simmons got into that in the post game, which is, he said, offensively and defensively, but it starts on the defensive end. It was just bad, and Tobias Harris being the silver lining, and I hate to beat a dead horse. Oh, cool, whatever. He makes X amount of money, but it's not even that for me. It's he's supposed to be the guy to get a bucket when the team is struggling, and he got 17 points. He led the team with 17 points, I believe. Mm-hmm. And you got those young guys. Now the two guards for Cleveland that had 24 and 22 made decisive decisions. So it just overall was just like a really bad game. And back to the defensive aspect, things really fell apart. I felt like when Dwight got in foul trouble. Tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, that's when, because you bring in Tony Bradley, who's a large human being, but not the quickest mover laterally or keeping up with people. Got handsy a lot with Drummond. And the Cavs also kept their starters in most of the game when the Sixers were kind of clearing their bench. So it was a little bit of a stat padding game from the Cavs, but once Dwight went out, it was like, okay, this is not good. So I don't know what they could have done differently. I don't think like a third string center is going to be high on their radar, but I think they can sacrifice the defense for at least offense if Joel isn't going to be playing. And you get Tobias with 17. Ben had 8 shots, I believe, and Mike Scott, Furkan, Maxey all also had 8 shots. So if you're without your star centerpiece and you're Ben Simmons going, okay, this is my team tonight, I'm going to do everything I can to win, and you're only shooting 8 times, that's a problem for me.
I will completely agree with that. I feel like he should have been taking at least around 20 shots, whether getting to the paint or working on those threes that we've been lied to about many times on social media.
And there were a couple bunch of drives where he drove into the lane, picked the ball up, and it was kind of obvious he was not going to the rim. Like, once he picked that ball up without ever looking at the basket, all the Cavs knew he was passing that ball. So the second he picked up his dribble, everyone started to recover back to their passing lanes, and it resulted in some really bad turnovers. He got a couple assists off of them, but overall it was a rough night decision-wise for most of the Sixers.
Yeah, like when he picks up the ball, it doesn't mean much if guys aren't knocking down shots. Mm-hmm. Furkan, 8 shots, I believe he made 1. He missed all his triples. Yeah. Like, I think overall it just wasn't there, and I'm hoping this is more of an aberration than a trend going forward.
Mm-hmm. They got decent enough looks, they just didn't fall, which is why it's not the end of the world they lost the Cavs. Like, any Sixers fan knows that they're going to lose to the Cavs. Like, you don't have to fear the playoff teams. You have to fear the lottery teams when you're a Sixers fan.
Well, it could have been worse. It could have lost to the Knicks when they had 2 players out there with the same jersey.
Yeah.
Woof, man.
But we're being pessimistic. The Sixers did win their first 2 games of the season.
They won it, so their first 2 games of the season. And group chat I'm in, I tried not to get too high on those ones because it was against the Knicks, and the best team among the three they played so far is the Wizards, which I'm really not sure with that because the Wizards traded one guard that can't shoot for another guard that can't shoot. So they got Bill and Westbrook in the backcourt. I still feel like they might be a 7 or 8 seed at best. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what to make of their wins either yet. They moved the ball around in the first games a lot more so against the Knicks. But I haven't been too high, and I'm trying my best not to get too low and thinking like this team is going to disappoint again.
Mm-hmm. Their offense at least looked like it had some sort of semblance, especially since the last 2 seasons, especially against the Knicks. They just kind of knew where to go. The ball wasn't glued to anyone for too long. People were spaced around Joel and Ben, and it was really a sight to see Joel, especially in that Knicks game. When he was operating with space, he had room to work with almost every possession. And I believe after the game he said, "Double me, I dare you," because now he has that equipment around him that he can pass out. He doesn't have to make an incredibly hard pass because there's 3 to 4 guys around him who know where to be off the ball instead of 2 people in the lane while he also has the ball on the block. So the offense to me in those first 2 games was really, I almost said inspiring. It was really congruent, I guess. It's very congruent offense, and it's something I'm looking forward to in the future, especially maybe pending a trade. But Joel with space was very, 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 very fun to see for me.
Sports bettors, are you ready? Are you ready for a faster way to win? When you bet with PointsBet, you get faster bets, faster withdrawals, and faster rewards at your fingertips. All on an easy-to-use app. See for yourself why bettors are calling PointsBet innovative, lightning quick, and the reason they have ditched other books. Experience this premium sportsbook for yourself and sign up with the code NBCPOD100 to get $100 in free bets when you deposit $20. That's $100 on your first $20 deposit. So, are you ready? Terms and conditions apply. Void where prohibited. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
'Tis the season to thrill at the Nissan year-end sales event. Get in, then get out and experience the most riveting ride of the year in a brand new Nissan. These savings on Nissan's lineup are sure to raise your pulse.
All right, 3 games into the season. This first pod since the season started. I went on vacation. Danny's probably somewhere over in Europe enjoying life because he's rich. So sorry we left you alone, Kevin. But, 3 games into the season, what stood out the most to you so far this season?
Among other things, Dwight Howard as backup center has stood out. He is just like far and away the best backup center the Sixers have had in the Joel Embiid era. Like it's not even close. Even with Al Horford as like the impromptu backup center, Dwight Howard's a much better fit. He knows where to be. He's more of that classic 5 that could set screens, rebound, score in the paint that they haven't really had. He's a good leader on and off the court. He looks like he's having fun on the Sixers team, which is also something we haven't seen from a lot of people the last 2-3 seasons. He gets people off the bench. He got Joel and Ben up off the bench with a steal. So the Dwight Howard impact is something that I don't know if I undervalued it, but I am pleasantly surprised that he has made such an impact on the bench, on the court so far this season, and he is going to be monumental moving forward because the last 2 playoff seasons, like if the Sixers had a Dwight Howard, they possibly go to the finals. Like the Raptors series, they win that series if they have a valuable backup center. And
just someone competent.
It was so obvious that was what the team needed. You just needed the team not to be a complete disaster without Joel on the court, and that's what Dwight Howard's bringing. So that's what stuck out to me so far this season.
Well, you bring up that Raptor series. I forgot Greg Monroe was even in the league. He might have not even been in the league until the Sixers picked him up. And then he was out there getting big-time playoff minutes, and it was just like, this is painful. It's going to be a miracle. So I'm glad to see Dwight Howard here. I'm happy seeing him interact with other players and just some of the leadership skills because he's grown up, at least I think, from the guy that was in Orlando that was butting head with the coaches and his first time in LA. just seems like he's matured a lot, and that's something the team could use as well. Mm-hmm. The thing that has stuck out to me so far this season is Matisse Thybulle. He was someone that a lot of fans did not want to give up in any trades, me being one included. And right now he is buried deep on the bench. Mm-hmm. And I completely understand it, and I never thought about like why he actually would be buried on the bench. When the Sixers started coming back for training camp and all, we had that little joke in our group chat about he had new hair or whatever, and he was like, mm-hmm. All right, but can you shoot the ball? And he's a defensive wizard. His presence on defense will always be felt, but the team wants to build around Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons, and as long as he can't shoot, it's not all that beneficial to have him on the court. So he's gotten buried behind Maxey, Mike Scott, Shake Milton, Dwight Howard. Like he played Furkan. 8 minutes yesterday. Furkan, yeah, 8 minutes yesterday. I don't know how many minutes he played in the first two games on the top of my head, but it wasn't much. So I guess my question to you, and something I've kicked around in my head this morning before we started recording, is like, what is this future? If right now with the Sixers, I don't think it'll be much of one if he doesn't develop a reliable jump mm-hmm. shot. What do you think?
I mean, it's hard. I don't have much. I love Matisse so much, but I don't have much faith in him developing a jump shot like all of a sudden as the season has started. That should have been something he worked on in the offseason a lot. And again, it was a very weird, non-classic offseason, but we spitballed before about like the bench unit, and we always kind of were like, oh yeah, Matisse will be there, but will he? Because Maxey's probably a better fit. And then right off the bat, it's been Maxey over Matisse. They've used Matisse for some matchup defense, and he's not fared well. He played, I think, 17 seconds in the Wizards game and picked up a foul right away. So it's just weird that he has fallen off so quickly, but also not entirely surprising considering what the Sixers are doing this year and what they needed to, as you said, surround Ben and Joel with. So he's obviously not off the table in any trade. Like if you can get value for him, especially in a big one for James Harden, but if you can flip him for something valuable that will help this team, then we can all watch Matisse's vlogs in Houston or Portland or wherever he ends up going.
I love that the first team you said was Houston. What will the Sixers even get from Portland for Matisse?
I don't know. I was just thinking of another cool city he could go to.
Yeah, I like the kid. His vlogs are fun. He seems fun. It just, if he can't shoot, I don't see it working out here.
Remember when people said he was already better than Robert Covington?
Oh my gosh. I remember that. I remember last year, and I'm not going to say who, but after like 2 preseason games, people were saying he was already the rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And yep, I may have, at the time I was only producing, so we may have entitled a podcast that if you go back and look.
Yeah, he's an extremely fun player, but just like Ben Simmons, different tier, obviously, but other teams have figured Matisse out, and they know how to guard him. They know all his weaknesses, and he does have a few glaring ones, so they can game plan very easily when he's on the court now. And if he's not going to fix his reach-ins and everything, like, you obviously want him to like play as a free safety, kind of just do whatever he wants because he is good enough to have those just natural instincts. But now he's kind of gone from being ambitious to being aggressive and overly aggressive, and now it's starting to hurt his playing time and the Sixers overall.
Dreams come into reach at Wilmington University. There's a local university that's ready to bring your dreams into reach. It's Wilmington University. WilmU helps working adults reach their career goals through accredited and affordable degrees and certificates. To reach new heights in your field, WilmU works. Find out why at wilmu.edu.
All right, before we peace out here, it's one last thing we want to get to. And we're not going to beat you over the head with any more James Harden talk. But we are going to talk about James Harden one last time. 44 and 17 the other night, Kevin. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah. And he still had the meat sweats. People were saying they don't want to trade for the 31-year-old dribbler, and then he puts up the most absurd return stat line in pandemic history.
12 or 22 from the floor. He had the meat sweats. I wonder if it was a Brazilian steakhouse or a different type of steakhouse, with scantily clad human beings performing. The man can ball. And we just talked about Matisse, and some people's like, I don't want to give up Matisse for James Harden, or I don't want to give up that many draft picks. And if you think the Sixers window is now not at least engaging in conversations, is ridiculous.
Yeah, that was a very good game for our narrative that I'm trying to push of James Harden obviously elevates this team, and Joel and Harden together would be just a wonderful experience. And I hope people saw that game and are like, okay, I'll take a step back here and kind of realize this is one of the best players in the world, and he's not just a 31-year-old dribbler. My mom, I know, does not want to trade for James Harden. And how I posed his stat line the other night was, hey, Mom, guess how many points James Harden scored? And she's like, how many? I'm like, 44. And she was like, but did he pass? And I was like, 17 assists, Mom. So that would be my main point to everyone who's like, he's just a dribbler, he's just a shooter. He is a phenomenal playmaker. And I don't think the Sixers should back out of trading him for him anytime soon. They need to hop on that.
So the Sixers next game, Toronto Raptors. And a lot of people are going to go back to that, the quadruple bounce around shot in the playoffs.
Let's talk about it again for everyone.
Yeah. No, you guys all know I like stabbing you in the side and just twisting the knife and talking about
it bounced 4 times.
Painful memories. No, the Raptors are not off to a great start so far. They lost by, 5 the other night to the Spurs. They're 0-2.
They got upset by the Magic, I believe.
Yep, upset by the Magic. So, like I said, with the Sixers losing to the Cavs, hoping it's not a big thing, and beating up on the Knicks and the Wizards, how much value are you putting into the Raptors 0-2 start?
I mean, if I'm going to be fair to the Raptors and Sixers, I mean, the Sixers, I was not freaking out last night, but I was like, this isn't good, and this is a lot of stuff that was happening last year. So the Raptors losing, I don't know, it's a weird offseason. Teams are struggling to get their footing, it looks like. The Knicks beat the Bucks. The Clippers got the breaks off of them by the Mavericks. So it just seems to be kind of a weird start to the season, and different teams it seems like the teams with the most rest since the playoffs started and they weren't involved have the most legs, obviously. So I don't take a ton of stock in it yet. I would give it 2-3 weeks before I'd be like, okay, what are the problems here? But I don't know. It'll be a fun matchup. I haven't been watching the Raptors yet, but yeah.
I think it'll be a fun matchup. Again, a lot of these games over the first 2 months is going to be teams figuring out, communicating, especially the teams that played later into the bubble last year. So their 0-2 start, it's whatever. I think teams getting their pacing, communicating, and playing well towards the end of the season when the playoffs start, I think that'll be key. Similar to the NFL, just getting hot at the right time. It'll be fun, but for me, everything matters once we get to the playoffs. It doesn't matter if the Sixers win 50 of these 72 games. Once we get to the playoffs, that's when I will start putting value in stock and things.
And my Hornets also beat the Nets the other night. So there's another anomaly.
So, when you mentioned the Clippers and Mavericks, them down by 50 at halftime, I got a notification on my phone, and very rarely you get a notification, then you click on it, and it's like deleted because there was a typo or it was just wrong or whatever. So I got the notification. I was like, nah, this is wrong. So I didn't pay any mind to it. Then a group text I'm in, everyone just said, hey, did you all get the same notification? I go look at it, and it's like, oh, these dudes are really down by 50 at halftime.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't care who's playing. It's like, that's bad.
And Paul George took credit, but earlier he said it was all Doc Rivers' fault. So that, I guess, humbled him rather quickly.
Oh, man. So we'll see. But Kev, it's fun. Glad you had a good holiday.
You too.
We'll be back maybe this week or maybe before the new year, maybe after the new year. We'll see. We'll let you guys know. You guys can follow Kevin, the Kevin Rice on Twitter. Is that your same Instagram handle as well?
My Instagram is Kevin Rice Cake.
Okay, I follow you, and I should know that. Give it one more time for the people.
Twitter is at the Kevin Rice. Instagram is Kevin Rice Cake, all one word.
Kevin is a brilliant basketball mind and does some dope stuff for the jump rope. You can follow me at I am Ben Barry on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for listening to Sixers Talk, presented by Wilmington University. Will New Work. Peace.